Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be focused on getting this Dana 60. It's the 05 Super Duty Dana 60 that we're going to be swapping out from the 04 that's already in the Jeep now, the YJ. We're trying to get this prepped and ready to go for the 3-link. And the reason why, if we didn't mention it before, that we're going to the 05 versus the 04 is because this one here is a more desirable axle for the high steer conversion that we're trying to do. And Barnes actually has the perfect kit for it. So we've got all their brackets over here all ready to go. And it is a weld-on and a bolt-on kit as well. So this is just one of the bolts that's going to be using the high steer kit to convert it over. This thing is going to go through one of the brackets from Barnes down into one of the bolt holes on the knuckle itself that's already on the axle. So this is going to be a lot of grinding. And if you guys have ever cut off brackets and all the mounting stuff on any axle at all, it is a lot of work. It sucks, it's not fun, it's messy, loud, but it's gotta be done. So we're gonna do a time lapse of this. I'm hoping I'll get it done today. If not, we'll definitely finish it up and we'll go over some more stuff that we're gonna be doing on the YJ. So stay tuned. All right, so before we get cutting on this and doing any trimming, I should say, this is the first time we've actually cut up one of these as far as an 05 goes. We've messed with some Dana 44s, things like that to get ready for trusses, and theirs weren't nearly as much cutting, but this is kind of new to us, so I know for sure all this is going to come off. That's definitely a definite. And then things like the track bar, brackets for that, and then it's this side that we really want to be careful with because we got to leave enough room, or I should say make enough room for our lower 3-link bracket. So that's going to be something we've got to be really careful on. I'd rather spend more time making smaller cuts and taking more calculated chances on the right cuts than just hacking everything off and going, man, we can't go back now. So we really want to take our time and make sure that we don't cut off more than we need to. We're going to go ahead and take our brackets once we start getting close and seeing how they fit to make sure we don't cut off too much. So going to be a lot of work, a lot of noise, a big mess. So we're definitely going to be wearing eye protection, face mask, all that stuff, and definitely hearing protection. We're going to go through quite a few flap discs, some cut-off discs, and probably a few Sawzall blades. So let's get to cutting. Just cutting off this one bracket on the passenger side probably took about hour and a half. It's a lot of work no matter how you look at it. So a lot of cutting, a lot of grinding, you name it. We've got every tool out here that we could think of to cut all the brackets off. Everything from Sawzall, flap disc, cut-off wheel, breaker bar, hammers. We even used the plasma cutter at one time. And I didn't have the plasma cutter hooked up to 220. I think next time we'll do that. Just rookie mistake in the sense of thought we can get away with the 110, 115 setting. So when we do this one side over here, we'll hook it up to 220 and see if we can make a little bit more headway with that. This is the side we want to be a little bit more careful with when we start cutting everything off. Fortunately, we watched a couple videos on people that have already worked on this type of axle for basically the same kind of setup we're doing. And we learned from them some of the mistakes that they said that they would avoid next time, or some of the shortcuts they said they would do if they had to do it over again. So that's where we're going to take a little bit more time on this. But other than that, we're making some progress. We'll get there soon. So keep watching. All right, so we've made a decent amount of progress, but still a fair amount left to go. This is the passenger side, and over here we still have what's left of the sway bar bracket, and which is actually part of the track bar bracket. So the track bar went from here over to the frame. So we have a little bit more to do there, but that's going to be really easy because it's kind of open and you can get in there pretty decently. It's this side, which is the driver's side. We still have where the two bushings were that were mounted here. And that's what's left of everything so far. That's all the scrap metal that came off of this. So we've got to keep trimming on this, cutting away at it. This is what's left of the sway bar bracket for the driver's side. And what we've got to do is once we start cutting away at this part of the casting, we've got to leave room for this Barnes 10-degree lower bracket that's going to be part of our 3-link. So that's got to fit right in here somewhere. So we're going to keep working at it and we'll keep chipping away. Well, we were hoping to show you guys a video of the parts we got sandblasted before we put the epoxy primer on them because they turned out really nice. The sandblaster did an awesome job. There was really no rust or anything bad on it. A lot of surface rust, but some old paint and things like that. Once that all came off of there, the parts were super clean. So we've got 2 really good coats of the Eastwood epoxy primer on here. These are protected. We don't have to worry about any rust, so they're ready to go for when we're about ready to paint. Today, we're gonna go ahead and work on getting the cab off, and we wanna get that off hopefully in one piece. In other words, not worry about taking the hard top off. We'll pull the doors, we'll use the engine hoist and try to lift the whole thing off, and we're gonna go ahead and put it onto the little wooden cart that we made. That way we can roll it around the shop and start on some of the body work on the exterior. And if everything goes well, we want to go ahead and get the LS engine mocked up into the frame with the mounts we got from Holley and get that set. So we're going to get started. We'll do a time lapse on it so it goes a little bit quicker. Well, it's official. Motor's in, not permanent, but it's definitely where it needs to go. We're pretty excited. We weren't sure how long it was going to take, only because the motor that was already designed for this build was a small block 350. The mounts that were in here, we had to cut those out and get these mounted to the side of the LS. These are the LS YJ mounts specifically for this particular Jeep. And once we got those mounted to the motor and started getting everything mocked up and down into the frame, then it was kind of just hoping that this was all going to match up, because this transmission was all welded and mocked up, and the cage that's in here was designed for the small block 350. So we weren't sure if everything's going to sit in place. We had to make any changes to this mount back here. But once we got the bell housing close enough to the transmission and we knew our bolt holes were going to line up and everything was at the right plane, we started getting our bolts started. We got everything nice and tight then, and we drew our bolts in. So this is nice and snug. This is where it's going to live. The only thing we got to do now is go ahead and get our mounts kind of where they need to go, get them tacked in place. We'll pull the motor, we'll do a full weld on the mounts, we'll put the motor back in, and we'll go ahead, it'll allow us to go ahead and start mocking up our exhaust, getting that where it needs to go. But more importantly, we want to get our 3-link started. So we want to make sure that on all of our arms, we know where they're going to go. Everything's going to have clearance on the motor and exhaust. So definitely making progress. So we're super excited.